I brought up the rhetorical question in several previous videos. Are happy people stupid? Now, there's another side to that question. There's another question that is sort of begged. Are intelligent people depressed? Or are depressed people intelligent? I wouldn't really put it that way, but does intelligence predispose one towards depression? I wouldn't say that, simply because we don't really have any way of quantifying intelligence. I've said in a number of other videos in a different series on racialism, scientific racialism. We can look at someone and judge or we can observe someone's actions, we can listen to their words. But ultimately, intelligence is in here, and we can't get in there. We can't read minds to find out whether or not this person is intelligent. But we've convinced ourselves that we can spot intelligence when we see it, and we've convinced ourselves, of course, that we can spot stupidity when we see it. We can't. Human consciousness doesn't work that way. The only thing that we can actually see is what our senses tell us about somebody else, and what our cognitive processes infer from the observations that we make of another person. That's not intelligence. That's simply evaluating another human being and judging them, placing a judgment upon them, whether or not they're smart or stupid. So the idea that intelligence predisposes one towards depression is in itself kind of a tainted conclusion. The idea that we can actually tell whether or not somebody is actually intelligent. I formed the conclusion that if someone who is able to do trigonometry without the aid of a calculator or a pencil, or who can use all kinds of big words, their mind can go all over the place very rapidly. They have an extremely good memory and very good analytical properties, but they think that everyone else in the universe is an idiot and life is stupid. I formed the opinion that such a person is actually not all that intelligent. Simply because what they're doing is, it seems to me, as though they're deliberately bringing harm and suffering upon themselves by a negative attitude. That's not intelligent. If you ask me, intelligence is seeking to get as much happiness out of this life as is humanly possible, and preparing oneself for the time when it's time to check out and say, well, that was it. Here comes the Grim Reaper. Good luck, everybody. It's been a blast, or I gave it my best shot, or whatever, but nothing I can do about this thing called life anymore. Whereas I think that the kind of stereotype I referred to before about the cynical, sarcastic, angry, but highly intelligent person who is actually, in my opinion, stupid, is likely to sort of go, life is awful, and then when it's time to die, they say, well, go to hell, everybody, and I'm glad I'll never have to see you again. Get lost, and hopefully this is just a big void I'm being swallowed up by, because you're all idiots. You're all a huge disappointment. Now, that to me is not an intelligent way to live, especially when you're the sort of person that places value on harm, and the ultimate harm is misery. And if you're not trying to reduce the impact, then, and especially when you've placed value on that misery, you're not very smart. Now again, this is an opinion. I want to make this very clear. This is just an opinion of mine. I'm not trying to attack anyone for being this way. I know it sounds like it, but you'll just have to take my word for it. I don't mean anyone in particular here. I really do not. And if somebody who is intelligent ends up getting a depression, if they're smart, they will seek help for the depression. One of my favorite artists, and he still is one of my favorite artists, is the Norwegian Edvard Munch. Everybody who is into angst and anxiety and depression and everything, and who is artistically inclined, is familiar with Edvard Munch, and he's famous for the scream. But my interest in his work goes farther than that. The Scream is a fascinating work, and I'm interested in his life. Even in my early 20s, in the depths of my depression, I was fascinated by the man and his life. And one of his little-known paintings is of a Danish doctor, Dr. Daniel Jacobsen, who treated him after he had a mental breakdown, Edvard Munch. And it's the closest thing that Munch comes to, I don't know, hagiography, hero worship, whatever, where Jacobsen is shown to be this pillar of civilization, strength, intelligence, will, and ability. I'll link to the painting below. Jacobsen is shown to be highly intelligent and strong and capable with things, and even as intractable as depression, anxiety, of an existential kind. Edvard Munch was highly intelligent in the sort of stupid sense of the word, and that he had a negative value on everything. He was cynical about everything. He was sarcastic about everything. For a long period of time in his life, the only thing that he thought gave him that was fit to give anyone any pleasure came out of a bottle or was between a woman's legs, in the grossest sense, not actual love, but lust and everything. But he also said that all these things inevitably have their hangovers, and we're back to where we were. He was sort of a morbid, depressed person. I would even go so far as to say that he might have been an antinatalist. But he was willing to confess that his condition, and publicly confess that his condition was pathological, or he was willing to allow or believe that his condition was pathological. And that shows at least enough of an absence of the arrogance that comes with certain types of intelligence to, in my opinion, show some intelligent ability to deal with the fact that he's got a pathological condition. When you say that intelligent people are predisposed towards depression, I think that what you're saying is the cynical, intelligent sort of person, or the undisciplined intelligence. The undisciplined, intelligent mind is more likely to be depressed, possibly. And by undisciplined, I mean the person who lets themselves fall prey to all the passions, all the imbalances, all the hatreds, cynicism, sarcasm, negativity, and all that sort of thing. Those are passions and emotions and value judgments that we can place on anything. Anyone can do that. You can turn anything into garbage if you think a certain way. But don't tell me that you're smart when you do it.
Yep.
Did you capture that?
Yep, I got it all.
All right, so really good feeling. Yeah. We're traveling to Portugal, and we happened to stop by London, and we happened to have perfect timing to meet up with Jamie. We had a perfect little snack here in this awesome mall, and yeah, I wanted to just ask you a little bit about we wanted to talk a little bit about the workshop. Yeah. You know, check in with people and
Hi people.
So yeah, what do you want to say to someone who's been in touch with been seeing hearing about clarity, maybe read the book, maybe they just seen your face around social media, and this thing we're talking about, what do you want to share about, why do you want people to show up at your workshop?
Oh, well, that's a great question. My favorite thing, one of my absolute favorite things to do, is working with groups of people, because when I'm working with, we get to know each other, we get a feel for each other, and it allows me to shape what I'm doing to the individuals in the group, and to kind of use the energy of the group to create genuine transformation. I mean, it's so interesting. Tonight I was doing a talk for people who were learning to do public speaking, and a lot of the people, I said, who's nervous of public speaking? Everyone put up their hand. I said, who's actually terrified of public speaking? loads of people put up their hands. And that's how I used to be. And I was just talking to them about, you know, the funny thing is, like I said, okay, who knows how to talk? Everyone put up their hand. Well, talking, you already know how to do it. So what's going on that gets people freaked out about public speaking? Well, what they're freaked out about is they got all this stuff going on in their head, when actually all you need to be able to connect with an audience or connect with an individual or anything like that is just to be yourself. Just to be yourself. In fact, when you're being yourself, free from all the distractions and noises and clanging, when you're being yourself, you have everything you need. Like and being yourself, when I talk about being yourself, it's about being who you really are. And the thing is, you were born being who you really are. Yeah, you were being who you really are when you were 9 months old, and you do so many things. And somewhere along the line, you learn some stuff that kind of gets in the way of you being who you really are. And one of the things I found is that being together with you as part of a group is one of the best ways to take that stuff off your mind and just get you back in touch with who you really are. Because it turns out that the essential you, the true you, the real you is the best thing you got going for you when it comes to living a life of your dreams and doing what you want to do. You know, I read a quote from 50 Cent tonight. Just banging here. I read this quote, and I can't quite remember how it goes, but I think what he said is, the greatest fear people have is of being themselves. They want to be 50 Cent or someone else. They want to try to do it like everyone else. He said, but you get nowhere that way. You're overlooking the one thing that you own, the one thing that's the source of your power. And so that's why I love getting together people in a workshop environment, is because I get to spend 2 days with you, really just helping you to clear away all the stuff that innocently takes you away from being who you really are. And as you start to wake up to that, everything changes. So that's why I like
Trust. Yes, amazing. Thank you. All right, so check yourself before you wreck yourself. See you the 25th and the 26th of July in Oslo, Norway. Peace.
Nice.
That was amazing. Was that good?
Yes.
That was really good.
I had some insights.
Yeah, me too. I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be off the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. I like your camera work. It's very unintrusive.
With Ian Abbott-Donnelly again from IBM Big Green Innovations. Always nice to see you.
Okay. It's really nice to catch up with you. Yeah. Okay. Today I'm talking about IBM's Deep Thunder, and the key thing about IBM's Deep Thunder is fine-scale weather predictions that lead on to business impact modelling. So it's not really about the weather. It's about resource allocation, scheduling, routing, maintenance, quality of service of all kinds of business operations or public service operations.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea of what this thing looks like, we're doing cloud scale weather forecasting. So you're doing it not at a resolution that typical weather agencies do, about 15 kilometres in their grid. We're doing it down at 1 kilometre. And we're not pushing the weather out to sort of 5 days, 2 weeks ahead. It's in the next 24 hours. That takes a lot of the risk out of the weather forecasting. It enables you to then allocate resources, make decisions on that weather. And because it's very location specific, again, the accuracy of the modelling is much more relevant. You can take real-time data feeds from those locations, combine that with the model. So your margin for error is very small indeed. So you probably recognise this as a example of Hurricane Wilma. So that's what the fine-scale weather forecasting looks like at a visualisation level. This is a dashboard that IBM creates, in this case for Con Edison, an interactive map of what's happening over the next 24 hours. But then you can drill down into specific locations. So if we look at Central Park, we can then see what the cloud, the wind, the temperature, the pressure, humidity is going to do over time, over the next 24 hours, in that specific location.
Yeah.
And that granularity then allows you to make the business decisions.
Now, I presume a lot of businesses do consider the weather forecast in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
You know, ice cream companies, from ice cream
Yeah,
companies through to retailers,
deciding
railway.
whether to put salad in.
But where do you have? So what's different about this?
Well, there's two things that are particularly new about this that IBM brings to the party, and the first one is about visualising that in ways that make sense to the business. So it's not really about the weather and weather maps. It's taking it from the meteorologist into the business analytics space. It's also connecting the data into the operational systems, your asset management system, your crew scheduling system, your resource allocation, your energy production system, your water treatment plant. All of those things are sensitive to weather, and you can take the data from these systems. So for each of those locations, you get a full set of data feeds. It's coming.
Live demos, don't you love them?
But that data allows you to do is transform that information into things that are useful in operations. So this is an example of the snowfall and how it will affect the New York highway system, where the accumulated snow is predicted to be over the next 24 hours. So they don't have to sort of sit around and wait for which roads do I clear. They know where it's going to need clearing. They can get onto the red roads now. As the weather unfolds, they get updated predictions of where it's going to be, so they can manage that network and optimise the impact of that weather event, rather than kind of waiting till it's happened and then clean up the mess afterwards.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I'm interested in with, and it's just like all of these things, is what happens first? Is in this case, was this IBM thinking we should, if we can put together this kind of thing, we think we can get people to buy it, or is it actually often a bunch of customers that come with similar problems, and then you find ways to meld it together?
This particular project started really quite a long time ago, around the Olympics, the Atlanta Olympics. What they wanted was a fine-scale weather prediction for that one location, because the world stage was set, people were watching. If in the opening ceremony or major events the weather's going to be bad, then they want to be able to cope with that in real time.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's a vague regional weather forecast that says it's going to be windy and rainy isn't good enough. So that's where it first developed. But what we've done is created a service out of it, so that you can now apply that maths in lots of other locations. And you can then take that weather information and apply it not to the sports industry, but to transport, to electricity grids, to renewable energy places, which have got different weather impact models. And then taking that weather impact model, you can then move one step further and create a sort of recovery plan. What's your ability to recover from that kind of weather?
Yeah.
And then you can take decisions that maximise your recovery.
Yeah.
So an example might be the road network in a city. You want to be able to store water on a road, not in a housing estate. So if you've got floods coming, a road can recover in maybe 4 hours, whereas a housing estate recovers in about 2 years.
Yeah.
So a recovery period is particularly valuable. Yeah. And this information allows you to connect real-time weather through to the various models, the impact and the recovery model, for you to make decisions on what you do.
So a question really is, on how open or closed does the data become? I was at the GLA the other week, and there's an open London data initiative going on at the moment. I was at a meeting and that was the London mayor sort of asking how much can London open up its data in useful ways to people?
Well, this would be a good example. Currently, our applications are industry specific, so the electricity industry or the transport industry, sport industry, whatever. But if you could do it for a city, and then anyone in that city can use fine-scale weather data, the kind of information that we're providing, they can connect it into their own business models, their own PDA applications that are relevant for them. I think this could be a really interesting service, kind of a stormwater utility service or a drought service that allows a city to self-organise how it responds to extreme weather events. So rather than having to cope with it, you give the city the data. And so we're looking at cities like Birmingham and Peterborough and some of the leading cities that are looking at sustainability, looking at digital economies, and saying how can you get this kind of analytics at a city scale, not at a regional scale.
Great. Well, as ever, it's always great to hear what you're up to. Thanks, Ian.
Take care.